neighborhoods, the different parts of the city. Those 20 people came together and over a period of 6 months wrote a charter, themselves wrote a charter that is being circulated around the country today because it is considered the best city manager, city council charter that exists in the nation today. That was done by citizens because they didn't just stand up on a soapbox and shout at each other. They sat at a table, and over meeting after meeting, going sometimes till 2 in the morning, they listened, they debated, they learned from each other, and they slowly clarified what they wanted as a community. And when we took that charter to the citizens in a community where people said to me, Harry, this is crazy. The people of Chelsea always say no to everything. You'll never get a yes vote. We had a 60% mandate for that new charter. And the result was an astounding document that is, frankly, far better than anything I ever could have written sitting in my office alone. Far better. And more daring, more risk-taking than the autocrat would have dared to take.
The combination of honest government and citizen participation renewed hope that things had changed for the better, that the citizens would regain control of their city. Chelsea got a second chance.
The last school that was built here is 100 years old. To see new schools built here, it's just unbelievable. It's like we're getting a new school. It's gonna be great.
How I feel standing here in front of this, like I felt when I was here for graduation in 1939. I was a cheerleader at Chelsea High School, and I was cheering for Chelsea then, and I'm cheering for this now, and I haven't stopped cheering since.
Today, I think there's a feeling that if the receivership could be extended, maybe that would be a good thing. Though I'm actually a believer, as I think most citizens are, that it's time to turn it back to democracy. So it's with a lot of excitement and some sadness, but the right kind of sadness. It's what they call necessary partings, right?
I think the future of America, so as Chelsea goes, so goes the nation. If it doesn't work here, it's not going to work in this country. So we've got democracy back again, and the people built this room right here, volunteer. They did all this woodwork. It's beautiful. Look what we can do, not a government program.
If you care about something enough, then you should stay and fight for it.
Your hometown is like your family. You only get one. You're always going to be from here. It's always going to shape you. It's what you are. And it's up to every one of us to say, not on my watch. You work for me, buddy.
The Arctic Sea stretches out like a blank page. Hunters search for signs of the spring's first seal. When information's scarce, we hunt it out. When it's too plentiful, we sift through it. When it confuses us or leads us astray, we pay the price. Here on the edge of the Arctic Circle, the Inupiat Eskimos are bombarded with information of a world very different from their own. Instead of helping them solve their problems, it provides some of its own.
There's such a preoccupation of watching TV, of people living somewhere else, and we watch them in our living room. And recently, another suicide, Russian roulette. And that's something that was introduced by TV. Why is it that our young people don't want to live anymore? The kind of society that our forefathers built on cooperation, on sharing, on looking after the fatherless, the widows, the old people. When we start teaching it to our children from a young age until they're grown and it becomes part of our life, they have the satisfaction within themselves that life is good. You have your integrity.
What actually happens there? What do youth really have to do? Because it directly relates to the crime.
What we know of our world often is determined by what questions some reporters ask. Are they looking for problems or answers?
Charlotte has had, over the years, a steady increase in violent crime. We had reached a point of asking ourselves, what more could a newspaper do for a community that is so upset about the crime situation? It was about this time that this angel appeared by my desk in the name of Ted Melnick. Ted, who's very good with computer statistics, had been working with the police department.
We just got public information about reported crimes, which include the address, the time, the date, and what the crime was.
He had precisely pinpointed every violent crime in Charlotte in the past 2 years, down to the address.
And you can see that they are on virtually every intersection and in every block.
And immediately I wanted to know what was happening in those communities.
I'm one of the 4 reporters who were assigned to get out and figure out what the real story was. We didn't want to just, go with a bunch of statistics and say, here's some terrible neighborhoods and look at all the crime that's happening in them. We wanted to figure out what was causing the crime, what the root of the problem was, and, what things could happen to fix it. And we knew we had to talk to people and get out there and really see for ourselves what was happening.
This community is part of Charlotte. It's not an outcast. It's part of it. We're just a few blocks from downtown Charlotte. So.
We were giving these people a voice that they really had never had before.
And these folks were living in some pretty bad circumstances, and I think they wanted help. I mean, they had basically gone into a bunker mentality and closed the door at 6 o'clock and never came out. And so, they were eager and ready, I think, to get something to change.
We must have some other shots. Ortega must have some other shots.
Taking back our neighborhoods is an attempt on the part of our newspaper to become a constructive part of the process to solve crime.
Right now she's working with teens to encourage them to work with youth.
Okay.
She's retired and
She's
still
pretty
works.
aggressive, too. Listen to this quote. She says, I'm not going to let these people bully me into getting out of my house. We're trying to clean up this neighborhood. It's going to take time. It's going to take a year, but we will be successful. I can assure you of that. I guess the goal would be, let's inform people about it. Let's educate people about it. Let's look for some solutions, put the options out there, and at least get a discussion going so that we don't completely sit here asleep and work on the suburbs and build new roads and all of a sudden have an inner city that's a war zone.
Information must reach us if it's going to be of use.
People want to see it in their neighborhood when somebody dies. Other than just burying them and putting them in the ground, we don't forget about them regardless.
Sometimes it's sad and sometimes it's good, because you see it on the wall and reminds you of him or how good he was and stuff like that.
But when you walk past one of these, it's like, well, somebody died, you can give you respect, and it gives you more of a serious, let's not, like trying to keep trouble out your mind.
Rest in Peace murals started appearing in the South Bronx in New York City as memorials to neighborhood kids. 2 men, tragically, never reached the age of 20. Family and friends donated money, walls were approved for use, themes discussed, street artists did the rest. A report on drugs and teenage violence may lead to legislation, but what about here and now, in this neighborhood? More than 200 of these RIP murals now exist, a grassroots public service campaign that everyone sees.
My name is Willie Ram Rios, and I lived around this neighborhood for about 15 years. I grew up here with a lot of old graffiti artists and writers who taught me how to do graffiti and how to use spray paint. And as my talents got better, we started doing murals for people who were killed.
These are the deaths that you don't hear about, that don't come out on the news, that you're not, some of them you're not directly involved with, and it's rough. You're driving around and you see 5 or 6 murals back to back, rest in peace, that happened in the same year, you know what I'm saying? And you're thinking that, things gotta slow down.